All right. Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of The Great Debate. Today, we will be debating The Last Jedi. So, this should be a good time. It's going to be a civil debate. If you don't like The Last Jedi, you're not going to like it after this. But if you do like it, you're probably still going to like it after this. So, let's bring on the panel. All right. First, we have Patrick here. How's it going, Patrick?
Good. How you doing, Will?
Pretty good. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and we have Tony with Star Wars Sith.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
We have Lex with Jedi Lex.
Hey, gang.
Hey, Lex.
And then we have Will with Diamond Figs. and we can't see him because he's John Cena. And it looks like we already have someone in the chat here. T-Man says yes. So welcome, T-Man.
T-Man's here early, always.
He's always here early. Looks like he was here early yesterday, 8:43 yesterday.
He's probably not even here right now. I probably forgot.
Yeah. So as far as this debate goes, like we said, it'll be civil. I want to hear good arguments on both sides. So, Patrick, if we want to start with you, which side are you going to be debating tonight?
I'm going to, I guess, debate on more of the side of the things I did not like that made the Last Jedi what I consider, and I don't know about the rest of this panel, one of the most divisive films in the saga. And given I might be one of the older ones in this group, so I really grew up with that old trilogy, and as I often say in a lot of the interviews, I grew up in the dark times where we had 3 movies and that was it. So when you get a prequel trilogy and then you get this sequel trilogy, you have a lot of opinions, right? You've grown and you kind of understand where you might have accepted things, and then you grow and you have an opinion. But this now we're all adults. We've all watched this movie, and as adults, not kids. And I think that we're very critical of this particular movie out of the 3 in the sequel saga. So I'm as much as there's some great pieces in this and great scenes, I'm gonna have to pan a lot of it. So that's the side I'll be taking today.
All right, sounds good. Tony, what about you?
Dark side, I hate it. So, well, so more the negative side. Well, I guess more the what if, because there's so many things that could have happened to make it a lot better. Mm-hmm. And I tried watching it earlier, and I couldn't finish it. But I'm probably more on the not so light side of The Last Jedi.
All right. Will, what about you?
I am 90-10. This movie is a stinker.
All right. Lex?
Yeah, I'm not that big of a fan, really, of all 3 of them, to be honest. But, okay. I mean, it did some things right. I think it did a lot of things worse, not so great. But, right. I mean, we'll see. I'm always good for a good debate. I'm always open to changing my mind and stuff. And if there's a good argument, there's a good argument. But I think it's going to be hard to change my mind on this one.
All right, fair enough. So I will be taking up the mantle of defending The Last Jedi. I'm not 90-10 on it being a stinker, but I'm probably closer to 50-50 on parts I like and parts that I don't care for. But I'm going to try to be the best defender of the movie that I can possibly be tonight. So we'll see how it goes. Looks like we got a few more in the chat here. We've got Jake. What's up?
What up, Jake?
Hey.
Tony's pulling double duty in the chat and
Let's
the debate. If you start arguing with yourself later, that's when we'll know it's interesting. Yes. We've got Jake he's here for Star Wars Sith. We've got the Tony fan club. And then Angel here. Yes, we did just begin. So we are about to get started. I am going to show what our debate agenda will look like for the night. So bear with me here as I share this. All right. So this is the agenda. We're going to start off with the Supreme Leader Snoke. We will move to Canto Bight, the infamous Leia Mary Poppins scene. Yeah, that'll be a tough one to defend. I'll be honest with you. We'll have Rey and Kylo Ren, which is a big part of the movie, and then the main event is Luke Skywalker. I think that's the one that everyone gets real jazzed up about. So this is what we'll be moving through tonight. So I say we get started on the Supreme Leader Snoke. So we will take turns on this. Let's go ahead and take the negative side of Snoke since y'all have a lot of opinions on it. We will start with Snoke, and then I will try to defend what y'all say. So the floor is yours, Snoke story haters.
I don't know. I guess I can start off. Like, I think Snoke was an interesting character in The Force Awakens, right? We kind of got that same illusion of he's, obviously in charge, kind of like we saw Palpatine finally speaking to Vader via hologram in Empire Strikes Back. So I think when you go from The Force Awakens, which I felt very much like a reboot of the original movie, but well done. It was a lot more entertaining. So when you come over to this, I think the audience had a very, very high expectation to have Snoke's storyline more than just a arc from one movie to next and quickly end. I think they wanted more. I feel for Andy Serkis with his performance because he was phenomenal in his performance. Phenomenal. So it's hard to go from a great performance to then end that character so early. And I think this is what one of the things that makes this movie very divisive with the fandom is that you have your bad guy, and now you have to, when you get to the next part of this trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, you got to bring somebody back because we killed this guy off. And it just, to me, it didn't feel like that Snoke storyline was thought out enough before they started to tear it apart. And in some parts of The Last Jedi, I feel would have been better, like, to then tell some of those tales prior to The Force Awakens. Yep. Like, I think there's pieces of this movie that would be really great to keep as is, but moved into a different timeline. So it's slightly, because it would make more sense. Like what they did with Luke, and we'll cover that in that Luke topic. But like, I think it would have been more interesting to see this interaction with Snoke and Kylo Ren earlier than just a hologram.
Okay.
And then to go from the hologram to finally meet him and then to end him so quickly. Not that I didn't mind how he got ended or how him and Rey got into the fight after. That was excellent. But I feel that the story just needed more, and to not get more, and then to all of a sudden now we got to invent a baddie for the next movie.
Right.
But we'll just grab somebody that completely ruined the original trilogy. It completely ruins the actual story of the original trilogy, what they did in the Rise of Skywalker. So that's what it bothered me, is how they used Snoke, killed him off, and then the story falls apart from that, in my opinion. I don't know about the rest of you guys, Tony, Lex, Will.
Yeah. So with Snoke, I feel like he was so, excuse me, such a waste, because like he was super dope. He like right away, I'm like, is this the new Palpatine? Like he seemed really, really evil. I wanted to know more about him right away. Kylo was terrified of him. So all that was great. And even the little bit that I saw today, seeing Snoke again, I'm like, man, I wish we got more of him. Like Patrick said, I wish we had stuff before, like seeing like a prequel of how he became who he was. And then the jabroni Rian Johnson cuts him in half. Like, what? That is probably the second thing that made me mad about this movie, was just cut him in half and that's it. That's it. Like what a waste of a potentially really, really good villain. So I want justice for Snoke, man. Bring him back.
All right. And then we have someone in the Angel here has got an opinion on Snoke too we can hop in on. I felt like they could have killed off Snoke in episode 9 and then have him play the big bad within the First Order in The Last Jedi. So yeah, I think that's fair.
I agree with Angel on that.
I think that's fair. I think that's very fair. Lex, what did you think?
I mean, I'm kind of on the same side as Patrick and Tony. When you say Supreme Leader, it holds weight, and it always has held weight. You are supposed to be this, like big bad wolf, and you just get cut in half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
it just
my
felt like they
God.
didn't give him the depth that they've given to all the other Sith Lord and Supreme leaders. You know, I felt like his, as Patrick said, his storyline just felt incomplete. It was lackluster. There wasn't much to it, and then because you cut it short, you almost had to pull all this other random stuff with bringing Emperor Palpatine back. That to me did not make sense. I completely think it ruined the movie. It ruined my perception of Emperor Palpatine. I hated seeing him like that. It was odd to me. I didn't really enjoy it that much. I wish they would have given him, yeah, more justice for Snoke for sure, Tony. But like, I just think that they needed to have put more thought behind his character and his storyline, and they didn't.
Yeah. I think all those are fair assessments of the situation. I would say, as a staunch defender of The Last Jedi and how it was handled, I would say that Snoke's character, we look at it as, man, he would be a really cool bad guy. And he is. I mean, I think after episode 7, I was super interested in Snoke, but that wasn't his role in the story. He was more of a stepping stone for Kylo Ren to build him up. So if you were to go back to the original trilogy, we have like what 9 minutes of the Emperor in the original trilogy, and we're like,
Yep.
man, that's a
That's
cool
a good 9
character.
minutes.
It stinks that Vader threw him into the pit. You know, we
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
much about him, but the sequel or the prequels make Emperor Palpatine that much better, right? Like,
Yes.
Yes.
so we do get
Yeah.
more on him. So I think, you know, I don't think we're going to get a Snoke backstory and the whole Mandalorian thing, but if we
Nope.
did, it would be cool. We're going to have that in the comics, and like
Yeah.
I would say 1 out of 10 fans read the comics, maybe. So, you know, I think we just have to look at him from the picture of he's meant to push forward Kylo Ren's story, not be this big bad guy. I think it would be cool if he was a big bad guy because I really thought he was awesome in The Force Awakens. But yeah, all he was meant to be was making Kylo Ren the big bad guy, which don't get me started on episode 9. It's my least favorite of the sequels, and Kylo Ren should have been the bad guy in that movie, like the that other writer that was doing the movie first. He had Kylo Ren as the bad guy, so I think that should have been the take. But focusing strictly on Snoke, I like how it pushes Kylo Ren to the Supreme Leader role.
So one thing with let's get Diamond Fake's take, and then I got something more for Snoke. And you're on mute.
Oh, you're muted.
You're on mute. He has no power either.
Yeah, he's got the cool setup going right now.
Can we hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Dunk on Snoke for a few minutes.
You got just for a few minutes. Okay. Snoke. It's amazing how a character can have an unlimited amount of potential in who was portraying him as an actor, in what could possibly be a more powerful dark side user than Emperor Palpatine, and then he just got split in half and became Emperor Palpatine.
Yeah,
like, the guy is, if his whole goal was to just push Kylo Ren's story forward, he didn't even do that. Kylo Ren was going to turn to the dark side no matter what after everything that happened with Luke Skywalker. I know Luke said, oh, Snoke was twisting his mind, blah, 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 blah. The first thing that Luke sensed in Kylo was his darkness. So Luke was going to make that decision regardless. He walked into Kylo Ren's hut thinking, okay, this guy's going to be awful. He then made that decision, looked into his mind, and justified his decision of, okay, I'm going to kill my nephew. Oh, it's great that Snoke messed with him because now I have a reason to murder him. Ignites his lightsaber, and then he's like, you know what, maybe I will be Luke Skywalker and not do it. So if Snoke's whole goal was to push him towards the dark side, it's like Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. It doesn't matter that the Ark still goes into the warehouse without Indy. Like, without Snoke, nothing happens.
Yep.
That's fair.
Kylo and Rey already had their connection before seeing Snoke in Snoke's room as well. They were literally more powerful in the Force than anything else. It's just it's a detour to deal with Snoke. Is all it is.
Yep. That's fair. I think that's fair if you know, take that line of thought.
Fair,
So
I think.
And I think, Will, yours is breaking up a little bit, maybe getting some feedback too. Mute yours. All right. So, any last words on Snoke?
So one thing I have is I wonder if that was Rian Johnson's original plan to cut Snoke in half, because I remember before Carrie Fisher passed away, rest in peace, that there were rumors she was going to face off with Snoke potentially in that movie or in episode 9, and that the Last Jedi was actually Leia and it wasn't even referring to Luke or Rey.
Oh.
So like I wonder if Carrie Fisher hadn't passed away, if we would have got a completely different movie.
That's an interesting take there for sure.
Very much so, Tony.
I probably would have liked that better.
Yeah, her going up against Snoke, because she has her lightsaber. Like we saw a little bit of it in that episode 9 flashback. But like, imagine if we would have got that Leia and Snoke like going at it. Ooh.
What could have been, right?
I know.
Anything would have been better than Palpatine.
I'm with that. We need to do a Tony, when you do your Was It That Bad? I'm looking forward to your episode 9 one, because you're not going to convince me that it wasn't that bad. I don't like 9.
Yeah, no, it was too busy trying to fix episode 8, and
correct.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move forward on Snoke. I don't really have anything else to defend him on. So let's move forward to Canto Bite.
Oh God.
So I can start this one off for Canto Bite. Now, for me, this is a hard one because I don't necessarily like that whole little route they take. Maybe like I think it takes away from the main story. But looking at it at its core, like if you look at the world building aspect of Canto Bite, if you look at, visually, it looks great. I think the thing that I like best about it, though, is it gives this picture, and I think it's maybe DJ that says it, where they're on that ship and they're going through like where the guy makes his money from. Yep. And it's showing like, oh, he sells stuff to the First Order. And you're like, yeah, he stinks. And then it's like, oh, he's selling stuff to the Resistance too. Yeah. And you're like, oh, he doesn't stink as bad. It's all from that certain point of view, right? That Star Wars loves to throw out there. So it gives you that picture of there's this class of people that gives you like this people that aren't, affected by the war, right? So the most of the people are bothered, but there's this whole group of rich folks on this casino planet that sell to both sides and they're living fine. So I did like that picture of it. Not that, it enriches the movie a ton, but it gives you maybe a thought process of like, hey, there is something else going on in this world here, and it gives you a better picture of it. So I think that's maybe the best thing that comes from it, as well as DJ is an awesome character and they pick him up there. I'm a big fan of DJ in the movie. I think he's a good actor. I like, a little bit of comedic relief, but
love the actor. I think they gave him garbage for a role though. Like Benicio he's awesome. I love his acting. And when I saw him in The Usual Suspects and heard we were going to get him in Star Wars, or you've seen him in Sicario, I was like, oh, this is going to be off the chain. He plays I could see him kind of, playing like a character, like when he was a suspect in Usual Suspect, like the bank heist movie. I said, oh, I can't wait. And then to see what we got, I was like, really? Like I wanted to see something more like Fenster, like a character like Fenster, who might have been in a cantina as a shady character. That guy was barely shady, pretty lame. I don't even know what was he doing on Canto Bite. It really made no sense. I just thought to use him as a cameo, that was the weakest cameo I've ever seen. I thought Gordon Levitt's character, or whatever, as the alien who narcs him out for keeping their spaceship on the beach. He had a better part, right? I thought his demeanor, and again, he was obviously in makeup and prosthetics and all, but still much cooler. But the whole Canto Bite thing, I absolutely hated it. It took us off the path of good stuff I didn't need to have a PSA for the Star Wars universe about whatever that the animal that was kind of like a racetrack around it.
The first
I
version of
didn't.
Space Horses.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
true. The space horses that was the first introduction of space horses. We've had 35, 40 years of Star Wars, and now we have space horses as opposed to blurgs or any of the other cool things, the Opies, any of those things, which look more Star Wars than what we've got with that. And then in the last, the Rise of Skywalker, the space horse that literally was a horse with a mask on. That was awful.
Yeah.
But I just felt like the Canto Bite, I didn't need to see the galaxy, because to me, we see that in our own world, and I think maybe they were trying to make that parallel about the wealthy, and then you have everyone else you've seen seem to living like they're slaves, like on Tatooine. Right. There's humans as slaves. You have just the disparity of all these people hunting for scraps, even in Rey's time in Jakku, you know. So to have that Canto Bite where it's so okay, we see that, but no one really cares to see that. You can have a little interaction of people like that, and you get that more at the Imperials because they're the ruling class, right? So anyone that's with them is kind of living high on the hog, right? Because they're with the Imperials. That, like you saw Galen Erso in Rogue One, like he was living high on the hog because he was there. But when he left and went into hiding, he was like a farmer, like, you know, in some outcast planet on the out borders of the galaxy. So to me, it was just so bad. I didn't need the PSA on the treatment of an imaginary animal. I didn't. That was completely useless. And if that was only get me to the stable boy, it was a bad way to do it, because they could have cut quick scenes and introduced Stable Boy and gave it a little more interaction with
Broom Boy is his name.
Broom Boy.
Broom Boy. Thank you. I kept calling him Stable Boy.
Stable Boy.
He was Stable Boy until the end when he grabs the broom. Then he's Broom Boy.
Yeah. But I thought that they could have had more interaction with that, which again, these movies are made for kids and us adults, but that would connect more with the kids to have a little more interaction with him, seeing these peers, you know, these guys with the resistance, and kind of the whole idea of, like, you know, ignite the spark and all that. Like, I felt like they just lost so much with going to the chase scene through the streets with these things. It was useless. It was absolutely a waste of time, because there's better story that everyone on this panel, probably including yourself, would have liked to see than the Casino Town. That was just awful. And to me, having then done the Halcyon, I felt when I was on the Starship Cruiser that I was a Canto Bite kind of person. Like, honestly, it had that look of Canto Bite on there, and I'm like, okay, that ties in. But again, I felt that that's something that the Starship Cruiser kind of lost, because I think they could have made that a little more lived in, like the Millennium Falcon and everything else in Batuu, and you would have still felt fine, because you know it's Disney, it's clean, you know, like you go to the restrooms and the air things look like they're all rusted and patinaed. But you know that, right? It's the magic, the mystique. And I think they lost what Star Wars does and tried to overcompensate and push these social issues that really no one wants to go watch a movie and see the 10% wealthy on the screen and crapping on the rest of the galaxy like they do every day. You know what I mean? I don't know. That was just me. I thought it was a waste.
Well, Angel in the chat here looks like is okay with Canto Bite. They're on Team Will with this one. So couple parts that bothered them, and I would agree as well, but otherwise no problem. So I have one agreement for pro The Last Jedi. That's maybe one more than I thought we would get. Lex, what do you think?
Overall, I love seeing new planets. I think that that's something that Star Wars does phenomenally. I liked the look of it. I liked things about it, but I didn't enjoy it overall. I think it was just really a waste. There could have been development elsewhere, and for the little bits and pieces that we did get, to be honest, it wasn't like that great. Like, you know, yes, we got Broom Boy, we got a little things here and there, but overall it just felt like a waste to me. I did really like the planet. I think it's cool to see that stuff, but I think Disney trying to make parallels to us it just wasn't really needed. You know, we deal with that stuff during the day, and that's when we go and we watch and we fantasize about the Star Wars universe. We don't go to watch to be reminded of the things that are like kind of occurring right now, at least in my opinion. I don't. I go to escape and to go to a place that's far, far away in a different galaxy, not what's happening on Earth right now. So I mean, I really wasn't that big of a fan of it overall. I mean, I felt like there could have been a lot that was put in place of it for the plot, but it is a cool looking planet. It's a cool city. It's cool. But other than that, I don't think that there was much that came out of it.
We have another chat here. Ashley, my wife, is hopping in the chat to disagree with me and agree with Patrick. So
let's go.
She hates Canto Bight. I can agree with this. And I will say, usually, if we're watching the movie, Canto Bight is kind of a make or break scene for us, to where we will sometimes quit watching at that point. So thanks for the opinion, Ash. Tony, what do you think?
Exactly what you just said. When I got to Canto Bight today, I literally just stopped and did anything else. So I tried to start watching, and then like it's okay, but it's kind of like rewatching a scary movie. Like you know what's gonna happen. So when I got to Canto Bight, I just got bored. I literally grabbed my iPad. I started editing thumbnails for something else. I was on my phone. It's happening. I'm like, this is dumb, and I just literally made a live stream and started playing video games instead. So I'm good on Canto Bight. I don't even want to waste any more breath on it.
It's the ultimate waste of time for Tony.
Yeah.
Will, welcome back. Are you there? Maybe
I think
not.
he might have just got it. Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so
trying to get that power back, I think.
Yeah.
We had one other, and yeah, for anyone wondering about Diamond Figs, he was without power for a little bit, so that's why he's having a few technical difficulties. But I'll put this up here because I think this is a good question here. Curious, since we're talking about Snoke, he means Snoke here. Do you think he was alive after the destruction of the second Death Star? So, comic book wise, if you go and read the Rise of Kylo Ren comic books, he was alive. But then if you look like in the Mandalorian, I think in season 2, you see all those test tube Snokes, right? So, I mean, how many Snokes were there? So I think that's kind of up in the air on whether the Snoke we know was actually there or not. Do y'all know anything about that?
Oh, no, that's a good question though. And I wish they would explore that. Like, was Snoke a real person and then he died and then they tried cloning him? Like, I would love to know more of that, like the original Snoke.
And so comic book Snoke, I read the comics, so I think they're great. But he was actually like, and even, I want to say the Visual Dictionary, he predates the fall of the Jedi. But then when you get into the whole cloning thing, on-screen trumps novelization. I think that's the rule that Star Wars uses. Yep. So make your head canon what you want as far as that goes.
Yeah.
And it looks like we do have Will back with Diamond Figs.
Ooh,
so I see him moving with light and sound.
I don't have to use a flashlight anymore, guys.
And you sound good. That's awesome.
Yeah, you sound better. You look like Batman before with the flashlight.
Here's the thing. If anything was going to make me more mad about The Last Jedi, it was going to be losing power and trying to explain how much I hate The Last Jedi while I don't. So now I'm revved up, guys.
You needed a spot to vent, and you were about to be denied it.
Oh, boy, I'm revved up.
Give us 2 minutes or less on why you hate Canto Bight.
Okay, number one, that guy DJ. Do you know what? DJ. Do you know what his name originally meant in the script?
Don't join.
They didn't have his name. Yes, exactly. So it was don't join. The reason why that character is so incredibly boring is because he refuses to choose a side, which was the whole point written by the people, the Lucasfilm creative team. The story group, Pablo Hidalgo, all of those guys, for some reason, they thought that would be a great idea. And the epitome of them not knowing what they're doing is them not giving one of the main characters an actual name. And they just made his nickname Don't Join because that's what they called him in the script. Number one. Number two, Canto Bight. There are so many characters on Canto Bight that don't matter to the actual story. Like the guy with the red rose. Also, I was watching it earlier. I watched it a little bit earlier today because I wanted to rewatch the Canto Bite scene in 2 minutes or less. I'm sorry, I'm going to rant for a little bit.
No, you're good. Go for it.
If you guys watched it recently, the music changes to like 50s doo-wop music, which isn't Star Wars music. Number one.
It does.
Number two, the girl who notices Finn and Rose and BB-8 getting thrown out. Nothing ever happens with her again. She turns over and she has like this. They zoom in on her face and they're like, "What happened over there?" And he just goes, "Sorry, baby, I'm on a roll," and then throws dice. You never see her again through the entire thing that goes on with Canto Bite. Also, all of those kids, it was Thor. What was the Thor? Love and Thunder with those kids.
Yeah,
That happened. All of those kids that were on Canto Bite in the what are they? The Botherin. That's what the big thing are called that run around.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yes, the first version of Space Horses is what we referred to them as earlier.
Exactly. Botherin or whatever they're called. Also, Rose has like this weird origin explanation story for like who her and her sister is. And Finn just goes, "Oh man." And then turns around and then people come up on them with guns. Like that was I'm sorry, the writing of Canto Bite is awful. Like people get on the prequels for having bad dialogue. Everything that happens in Canto Bite was dog doo-doo. I'm done. It looked more like Star Trek too, with all the characters and everything. I don't think there was a species that we've seen before.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a Twi'lek in the background, a Togrutta, anything. There wasn't even like a weird cameo from somebody in the back. Doesn't make any sense to me. Also, every time somebody gets trampled by the Fatherin, nobody actually gets trampled. I slowed down those scenes the entire time. The CGI are the Fatherin starting to run. Everybody just falls over. So if you slow down those scenes of the giant horses running, people are just either ducking or falling over. It looks like it's a big vicious thing, but not one person was harmed. There are giant space horses running through the equivalent of a Home Depot, and nobody even gets touched by any of these things. I'm done.
I'm glad that I went first on defending Canto Bite. So, quick recap before we hit the comments. It appears to be a waste of time to most of the panel. I would say it's a nice world-building experience that maybe we did not ask for or need.
Bingo.
But that's my defense of it. So hopping in, the Major Jedi, what's up?
What's up?
What's up, Major Jedi?
Rogue Nation, Noah, what's up?
Is that a new logo? Look at this guy.
It is a new logo.
Fancy.
So quick plug here, Noah's been posting a little bit more on the Star Wars channel, which is Rogue Nation, so definitely go give him a follow before you hop off this stream. Angel here says, I need a backstory about Rose's sister Paige.
Oh, God, no.
That was my highlight because, in my opinion, she died way too soon. She died in the beginning of the movie. I will touch to this. So this is right here, the greatest defense of The Last Jedi, which is the novelization I've got right here for a few points later on. But you do get a chapter or two about Paige Tico, and she does seem like a very interesting character that I would have liked to have seen more of. But again, you've got 2 hours and 20 minutes of Star Wars. That's another story for another day. Noah here, going back to Snoke, had a lot of potential. Wish he didn't die easily.
Yep.
I think
Facts.
a lot of people agree with that.
100%.
Diamond Figs speaking facts on DJ.
I'm so mad about that guy.
And then what happened to Broom Boy? Yeah, so
Broom Boy.
That's what does Maz Kanata say? That's a great question for another day. Right? Isn't that what she says? Anything we can't explain in the sequel trilogy, that's where that one goes.
The Maz Kanata hologram too was awful in that movie. Do you remember that?
Yeah, during my rewatch, I considered adding that because I was like, that was weird. But then I was like, no reason.
It had to have been like contractually with Lupita Nyong'o. Is that who does it? There had to have been like a contract fulfillment or something where she like needed a certain amount of voice time in the second movie, or like it wasn't filmed for the first one, because there is no reason for them to call. Poe wasn't even there when they met Maz Kanata in The Force Awakens. It was Finn, Rey, Chewie, and Han. So like they don't. She has nothing to do with Poe, but he's the one who calls her, and she's like, "Sorry, kiddo, I got guns to shoot." Like there's no the connection there is awful.
Yeah, it's a solid point. I didn't even think about that, to be honest.
I didn't either. That's a very good point.
Rewatch it. It's kind of out of place. JT, what's up? Thanks for joining us.
What's up, boss?
Go check out JT's channel too. He has a lot of awesome lightsaber videos too, and I believe JT's a fan of the comics as well. So maybe he could drop some facts on that if I'm having a hard time quoting them. But let's move forward to topic number 3. So we're at the mid-show here, number 3, and we have the Leia Mary Poppins scene floating through space.
Gosh.
So, as far as this one goes,
screens are going empty now. Everyone's just closing down as soon as you brought that topic.
Let's go. Diamond Figs, you look ready for this. Will, let's hear what you have.
He's at a loss for words.
It makes me so mad that there are 2 instances where Leia shows that she was at some point training to be a Jedi, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
One is when the training scene and with Luke, and that's cool. Part. I would like a whole movie just about that, or shows or animated or whatever, just about that. And the other is her floating in space, freezing. So, okay, if we're going to talk about the physics of this,
she didn't turn into a human ice pop.
The bridge gets shot, correct?
Yep.
Creating a vacuum because of the nothingness of space, and everything gets pulled out. The fire immediately goes out. There's fire in space in Star Wars. That's fine. I'm not going to get into too much of like.
I was going to say George already threw physics out the window,
but that's fine. She didn't explode in space. She froze, which is fine. Yondu froze in the MCU. Whatever. He was just very cold. That's fine. She woke up, and the only other time we see her use the Force, she is doing the worst Christopher Reeves impression, flying at the bridge, and when she gets there, she immediately passes out. So, I don't know, you've got the book there, Will. I don't know if there's an explanation for this. So did she revive herself and then fly into the bridge? Also, number 2, you don't see a second bridge door close when she comes in. So when Cohen opened that door and she falls, why doesn't everybody else just get sucked out like they did when the original explosion happened?
I noticed that too.
So as a staunch defender of The Last Jedi, I will say
I know it is your favorite movie.
I will say that the physics aspect, I have an easier time letting go of that just because Star Wars has kind of thrown physics out the window to be entertaining. So that, like you said,
absolutely correct.
It's easy to pass on that one. I look at this scene more in, and you did touch on this too, where she has to show that she has some type of Force training, what have you. So I look at it as, oh man, Leia is so strong she can float through space after getting blown up out of a ship. So if you look at it in a very pared down view, put the blinders on and just look at it straight ahead, it shows that she is pretty strong in the Force. Now, are there better ways to go about showing that?
Lord, yes.
Probably thousands. But at the same time, it is one way to display how strong she is. So, Patrick, what do you think?
Garbage. That scene was actually garbage. And I'm so happy that everybody else calls it the Mary Poppins, because I turned around to my I'll get a little personal. I actually had a friend that my wife at the restaurant worked at. He was dying, and this is one of the last Star Wars movies I got to take him to. So for me to take him to see that, and see his feel, see Luke, what happened to Luke, right?
Oh, what a
This
way
is
to
the
go.
last Star Wars he ever saw. And they did all that to him. It broke my heart because I'm sitting there next to him and he's like, he turned to me and goes, "What is this?" I said, I don't know. He goes, "Where's the umbrella?" And I started laughing in the theater during the film because he was making jokes about it. Nick was like, "That's Mary Poppins." And he said it. And I said, 100%. I agreed. And then it was funny because we thought we were thinking that, but you guys think that everybody in the community called it the Mary Poppins theme.
Yeah.
And it was even the way she flew, it was like kind of like, oh, we got to do this way because we got to give a little hint, wink, wink. Disney owns this, and that's that was the wrong place for that kind of, hidden Mickey, if you want to call it that. That was awful. Right. And I could care less about the semantics of the, getting it into the hatch. I'll just throw that out there. I don't care about that. But the floating through space thing and the music they did, like, it was so cheesy. It was just plain cheesy. Whoever, like, I don't know whoever was writing this, did they check to say, like, is this really going to pull on heartstrings, or do you think people are going to think this is crap? Like, it's kind of lame. Like, I don't know who sold that, because I think of so many other ideas, and I see them scrutinize over how they build their sets, how they do their models, how they do their weathering. You give all this attention to all these finer details that make this world expansive and loving and awesome, but yet on the storyline, the most important part, you're going to throw Mary Poppins floating through space. Like, come on. Like, this movie, there's some parts of it I like, but I feel like you could have sliced pieces like this up and saved it for Disney Plus to tell, like, as precursors to the sequel trilogy, and it would have worked better, because we might have gotten explanations to why who and how Snoke rose. You would have had a little bit more understanding, maybe Leia training with Luke. You might have even gotten more story about Luke and where he was and what he was doing from when we last saw him to here, maybe perfecting being a Jedi, maybe even kind of having hints alluding to him getting bitter. But going from the Luke we saw in Return of the Jedi to, okay, knowing the last 5 minutes we finally see him in the first of the sequel, which was kind of a tease, and then, okay, we get him, but he's an old curmudgeon, and as he gets his lightsaber, which, he's got to, I don't know, if I lost my hand holding that thing, I would have more questions about it than just throwing it over my shoulder. So for me, it just tears my heart apart to see all that. So
yeah, that's fair. Garbage. And Noah felt that when you said garbage. So you're not alone there. Lex, what do you think?
So overall, I think the acknowledgement that Leia is a Force user, that she, the Jedi scene, absolutely loved. It's one of my favorite Funko Pops, to be honest. But then you go and do something like that, and it just, like, throws me for a loop. Like, I try to take my blinders off and be very open-minded to it, but it's so hard when you have scenes like that. Like, she is a Force user. She's a Skywalker, and you have her floating through space. And yes, the physics aspect of it, just because I am into science and stuff like that, doesn't make any sense. But then again, as you mentioned, Will, or really both Wills, the physics doesn't have to make sense. It really, like, it is Star Wars. They've never really contributed, physics to logic. But I just think that the display of her using the Force in that matter was a waste. And to me, it really kind of took away from her power and, like, just everything about it. I just did not like. Scene. That was it.
So we got a couple more comments here. The Major Jedi, in a way to frame this in a way that makes sense, says they thought of it as her force pulling herself to the ship to attempt to make it make sense, but
I thought the same thing.
Didn't work. And I will say in my head too, a force pull does seem better. I would like for it to be that way, but it is what it is. Noah, agreeing with Patrick, you spoke his mind.
And then awful. I agree, Noah.
Angel here liked Leia in the movie. If you remember at the beginning of the movie, she immediately demotes Poe for not following orders. So I'm glad.
She was awesome there.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up.
Leia moves.
Yeah, so that was good, and that's one of. Also, I had another defense of this written down. I wrote all my defenses down because
there's not many.
You're gonna need
them. I figured I'd need them in this firing squad here. So as Leia demotes Poe, so we get this picture that Poe's going to grow a lot in the movie. So one way is for him to find his way with Leia not there. So you kind of get Leia away and Poe has to find himself. Now I think she immediately comes back and then shoots him with the laser stun gun again, kind of like demoting him a second time almost. But it does give him some room to grow. Could he have done that with Leia present? Of course. It's not the greatest defense of it, but it's one line there. Tony, what do you think?
Dumbest thing in the world. So literally, I remember being in the theater and that part made me mad and kind of upset because literally she just passed away. So this scene happens, and right away the first thing you think is she's dead. And I'm like, really? That's how they're gonna like take her out of the movie? Because when that scene happens, it cuts away, and then there's another scene, then it comes back. So literally you're there for a couple of minutes thinking, did they just kill Leia that way? And she just passed away in real life? Like, so Rian Johnson, you made me mad, you jabroni. So that was in bad taste, in my opinion. But like, it just was just dumb, man. Like Mary Poppins, y'all. Like only Yondu could do it. That's it. That's it.
I never put the Yondu connection together until tonight. But
Yeah.
it is very, and those came out like around the same time too, didn't they? Like pretty similar time frame.
Yeah.
I think so.
I'm not as into
so.
Marvel as everyone else, but I want to say that lines up about right. JT has an explanation here. Ryder snorts line. I got this crazy idea. How about we have Leia being a Skywalker walk in the sky?
Basically,
that's funny.
Moment. So Swiffer Wetjet is in the house. What's up?
What up, Nick? It's my brother.
Okay. I see him on your streams. Didn't realize that was your brother.
Yeah.
Andrea from the Padawan Chronicles.
Oh,
Leia
She did
deserved better.
Yes.
As well as Han and Luke. So,
I'm saving my
Couldn't have
Han
put it better.
complaint for the Luke part.
yeah, we will have to. We need to find a way to discuss the original trilogy trio in a separate discussion and how they were used in the sequels. I think that would be a great conversation.
Yeah.
And so my last
Ricky Bobby.
You're y'all go check out Ricky's channel too. So my last defense of the Mary Poppins scene is I had 3 of them. So if you go back before it does provide us a way to see Kylo Ren is slightly, I would say more than slightly, conflicted in the entire situation.
Oh, that part was beautiful. Yeah.
Again, now when he pulls his thumbs off, I thought, oh, she's not going to get shot. And then like 2 seconds later, the stormtroopers do it. And so I thought that was a great scene. I don't mind that. But that predates the floating through space thing. And then I don't know if anyone mentioned it, but the Admiral also dies in that scene. And we just kind of gloss over it. He gets a sentence later on.
Yeah, that was terrible.
But that's a different, I didn't include that in the debate. I do get a little hot on the Admiral Akbar treatment as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure most people probably do, but strictly Mary Poppins, I think we have enough information out there on that one. I doubt we're changing any opinions on that one.
Oh no.
Leia's theme doesn't play for that entire thing too.
For real.
It doesn't play the entire thing. The only time it partially plays is when Kylo Ren senses her in the Force. Which I didn't mind that. I didn't mind that.
Yep.
When Kylo Ren senses her in the Force and he pulls his thumbs off of the blasters.
Oh, yes.
Triggers,
It does.
I actually, watching that back, I'm like, okay, I don't mind that he has that connection with Leia. However, that's the only part where Leia's theme plays. So Leia's theme within the Force, she uses the Force probably to the largest extent that she ever has.
Yep.
It doesn't even play. Also, last thing I'm going to say about this, because I know we're about to jump topics, but last thing I'm going to say about this, she's a Force user, right? She comes back in. Now, it's kind of different because we assume that Luke was trained by the other Force ghosts to turn into a Force ghost at the end, right? Leia uses her Force abilities to the extent where she passes out, goes from dying to resuscitate herself to then passing back out. Luke does the exact same thing, in the Force projection. He uses the exact extent of his Force abilities and then dies and turns into a Force ghost. That's the last thing I'm going to say.
All very fair. And just running through a few last comments on this one, it appears
I
that
agree with Andrew on this. Yeah.
most people wanted better for Leia, and
Yeah.
that is fair to want for her. So moving into our last two topics, we'll try to move through this one a little bit more quickly because I think there's probably a lot of thoughts on Luke Skywalker, which we're finishing the day with. So Rey and Kylo Ren. I don't know if this one will be as much of a hot button topic because, in my opinion, I thought their story was fine in the movie. I'm sure there's some dissenting opinions, as there are in most situations. So, if anyone did not necessarily like the whole Reylo dynamic, let's hear it.
I wouldn't say I
think
didn't
the
like
problems with Rey and Kylo Ren are the same problems with Luke, because their story together kind of is used in those story points with Luke closing himself off. And him closing himself off is a good contradiction to them trying to bring each other together, albeit that they have different morals and they have different wants and they have different needs. Within the Force, they're both being selfish at that point. Both Rey and Kylo Ren are being extremely selfish with one another. Luke's his selfishness, turns himself away. So I think the issues with Kylo Ren and Rey continuously connecting with one another is a joint expression of being the substitute for Luke being completely closed off the entire time. I didn't mind the Rey and Kylo Ren stuff. I just wish that it was being done in such a way where, kind of like if you had to use the original trilogy for an example, all of the times where Luke and Vader were sensing each other in the Force, even to the extent of that deleted scene where Luke is building his lightsaber and then Vader senses him throughout the Force, and it was supposed to be the original beginning of Return of the Jedi. It didn't change who the characters were, right? It was just they were supposed to sense each other.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It just made it for a complete, like, I guess I don't want to. I'm going to use the word disrespect of how two entities can connect within the Force, and how the person who can most be connected to the Force, Luke Skywalker, chose not to be the entire time. So Luke cut himself off from the Force, right? He doesn't know that Kylo Ren and Rey are speaking to one another until he walks in like a parent and seeing something he's not supposed to from his teenagers hanging out in the basement. That's how he finds out that the kid who put him on this entire path towards wearing dark robes and milking sea cow things.
Oh, that part was terrible.
I got so much to say about that. The only time is him, like, there's no way. And there are also other times, and this is turning into more of a Luke thing, but there are also times where Luke senses stuff within the Force, like Rey doing all this, who are you? All of this stuff, like sensing Rey throughout the Force. And then that's the time that he doesn't sense Rey, is the one time that his nephew, the Skywalker blood that he says that Skywalker blood coursing through his veins, that's the time where the Force being cut off from doesn't work. Turned into more of a Luke thing, but I apologize.
No,
Rey
I
and Kylo
think
Ren's not that bad. The fight scene at the end, I don't think they even touched anybody with their lightsabers.
That's a funny video if you watch the breakdown on that.
Oh my gosh, their lightsabers didn't even touch anybody. Oh, and the only other Rey thing that I have a problem with is when she's training with the lightsaber on Ahch-To. There's a shot where it's like it's from below her, and I don't know why. I don't know if they didn't have other principal photography or anything for that scene, but it's just Rey going like this with the lightsaber back and forth, and she'll do a different move. They'll cut back to it. She'll slice. They'll cut back to it. She'll slice the other way, and she's not even hitting anything. It's like she's doing a hula hoop with her lightsaber. It wasn't that bad, but that's it for my Kylo Ren, Rey Ren. I've got so much to say about Luke Skywalker, though.
So I liked the Kylo Ren and Rey. I think personally, it's probably the best part of the movie. And I know, like, for some people, you're gonna be like, well, the bar was low. But for people who do like the movie, I do think that this is why they do like the movie. I think the Rey and Kylo Ren story is strong enough throughout the 2 hours or so to carry the whole movie, which I think the two of them did. Maybe, like you said, in spite of the fact that their story has to happen because Luke pulls away. So I do think there's a picture there. But I do think both actors just did an incredible job in this movie. If you look at the three films, I think this one is the crowning jewel for the two of them together, which they have a lot of time together in this one. The Force Awakens, they only get a few minutes. I'm not a big fan of episode 9, so I'm biased there. But this movie, they do get a lot of time together, and I thought it was pretty good. As far as like the romance deal where they like touch fingers or whatever, I thought that was kind of weird, awkward, and definitely proves that he's been alone at Jedi Academy for his whole life. You know, that kind of gives off those vibes. But otherwise, I do think they have a pretty strong part in the movie. Tony, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't really care too much about it. I mean, it's fine. It didn't bother me. Like, it was fine. I kind of wish she would have like went with him and turned dark. That would have been great to have Dark Rey and just Kylo being Kylo and them just running amok around the galaxy. That would have been awesome. But yeah, it doesn't bother me that much. They're fine. They get a
Imagine
pass.
the end of the movie was Rey turning to the dark side, and that's how the movie ends.
That'd be beautiful.
That would have been awesome.
And then Rise of Skywalker is her coming back and switching from the dark side to the light side, and that's how Rise of Skywalker
and still being
off.
a Skywalker.
Exactly.
Oh no! Stop.
But that's the thing. Like, I think it would have made it more like palatable if going into Rise of Skywalker, you're like, because okay, if you're gonna do the whole
like Empire ended on a
exactly. Empire.
Yes, I agree.
It sucked for them at the end. Luke loses his hand. Han's in carbonite. Like,
the rebels didn't win.
Exactly. And if they were going to push Rey to be the one who's flying the Millennium Falcon around, being Han Solo's daughter in some sort of way, like The Force Awakens, and having such a connection to him for only knowing him for like, 4 days, having her turn to the dark side, like, and being gone, like Han Solo being in carbonite, would have been such a cool thing for the end of that movie.
That would have been a cool parallel.
Yeah, Rey being so in the dark side was such a cool thing that was missed throughout the entire sequels. And what stinks even more is knowing that they were planning it the entire time.
Yeah.
Like with the Duel of the Fates script at the end. So, I don't know.
In the comments, we're getting a few people that do really, they're okay with the Rey and Kylo Ren stuff. I think that's probably a pretty universal thing. Like, it's not, turning too many people off. The Falcon scene on Crate, that was an awesome scene. I did like that as well. Ricky did not like how Rey's Force ability happened so fast. Luke had to train, but they made Rey look like a Jedi Master, especially that scene with Rey and Kylo Ren fighting the Praetorian Guards. So there, I agree with that. Like, she does get everything immediately. She can fly a ship. She can, wield a lightsaber. She can use the Force. She can.
I think I wrote it down.
Whatever. But go ahead.
No, Snoke. Okay, when Snoke is originally talking to Kylo Ren at the beginning of the movie, and he's like, "Bring me the girl," kind of deal. The throwaway line to like for fans to understand that Rey is just like weirdly powerful in the Force. Not only the Force, but like also lightsaber combat, which no Force user has ever just picked up a lightsaber and been like, "I'm really strong in the Force. I know how to use a lightsaber."
That's true.
That's nothing that's ever happened. That's what the entire Jedi Temple is for. Yes, honing your Force abilities, but Anakin Skywalker, who they all thought was the chosen one, still had to learn how to use a lightsaber. He didn't just know. Like, he might have been really good and have good instincts with it, but not to take down somebody who was trained by Luke Skywalker. Okay, but the throwaway line is bested by a girl who's never held a lightsaber.
Yes. He does say that.
He says that to Kylo Ren, and then he's like, "Oh, man," and then he starts punching his helmet in the elevator.
Yeah.
I thought about including the whole helmet thing as well, but I thought may have too many tangents. Lex, what do you think about this?
I mean, honestly, I didn't really mind it. It's not my favorite thing, but I think out of all of the things that The Last Jedi does, that one isn't like the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care for it. It's not like, oh my god, I love Raylo, but I'm also not like, oh, I hate them. But I'm kind of in the middle about it, to be honest.
They're just there. That's fair.
Yeah, it happens, but
And I think for critics, I think you all probably describe yourself as critics of the film. The fact that Rey and Kylo Ren are palatable probably does speak to the fact that they did an okay job. Patrick, what do you think?
I see. I don't. Here's the thing. I thought it was very predictable from the first episode that they would be an item. I 100% thought that, and I don't. I think the audience was okay. I'm going to be sold this story. I can go with it. But the problem I have starts right away with the writing. For instance, if you watch any interviews, and they're with Adam Driver specifically, you'll hear how he had so much of an idea of his character and where the arc of that character will end from the first movie. Right from the first movie, he knew what was going to happen to his character. And I think that's why he could be so deliberate in his short lines and the way he perceived his body motions. Because a lot of time when you're wearing a mask, you can't always see the anger or the frustrations or any of that stuff. So you have to get it through the body language. So for him, being such a great actor and really demanding that information and then working with the writers to have an understanding of how to develop his part of his role was very helpful. I think it then screwed up the whole Ray Lowe could have been better, or both characters could have been a little bit better if the writers took advantage of knowing that about Kylo and knowing where the hell Ray was going to end up. So I think the problem is when Ray, no one knew, was Ray going to be a Palpatine? Was Ray going to be a Kenobi? Was Ray going to be, I think no one knew what she was going to be. Even the actress said at the end of it all, Daisy Ridley said that she didn't know, they weren't quite sure who and what she was going to be until that last, probably halfway filming the last movie.
Right.
So I think that alone speaks volumes of why it all fell apart. Because if she knew where her character came from, think about how you say certain lines, right? And I'll just use this example. You can say, dude, right? Dude, I'm happy to see you. You could be in a horror movie and be like, dude, So if you know where your character is going, you know how to portray the character. So I think the bad, horrible writing and parts of it really makes the whole sequel trilogy fall apart because there's so many plot holes. You have to create a whole nother movie, a couple $1 million of a movie budget to correct everything and the storylines on this one. I get it, the ideas of how Rey became so powerful, that always bothered me as well. But whatever, maybe she's a gifted prodigy. It just came. The Force is strong. They're a dyad, whatever. But I feel that for them to be better connected, they could have really portrayed their roles better, knowing where certain characters were going to be. If she knew she was a Palpatine in this movie, think about how the interactions could have been so much better. Like when they're fighting to grab that lightsaber, maybe she's kind of like, maybe I shouldn't try as hard. And then like she sees like, no, I can't let him have it, and she's trying again. Those are the things that an actor could put into play that makes it better. So even if you have a little bit, like Jack Nicholson is a great example of that. You give him a piece of the script to say, okay, in The Departed, you're going to go and you're going to execute this woman and you're going to throw in a ditch and you're going to laugh and like, wow, she fell funny. That story he talks about her falling funny. And he says, now that's good. But if I add this and I say this, that adds a little bit more. And if I continue going, so give the actors the right tools so they can do the best of their craft. And I guarantee that movie would have been a little bit better, just a little bit. And we could have maybe kind of not been so divisive over it. But again, when we get to the next topic, I think you're going to see why everything all falls apart, in my opinion.
For sure.
So I will let that you segue into that next piece.
Yield to the comments
on Raylo at this point. But again, if they knew where they were, if Kylo knew where he was going, Adam Driver knew where that character's going, and if Daisy Ridley knew where her character, it could have been much better acted, and you could have seen better performances, and it would have made the scenes more meaningful.
I don't disagree with that. I've always thought it was interesting that Adam Driver did know J.J. Abrams' whole picture, and really no one else did, because they did keep changing things. So that I think you're right there with how they portrayed the characters. Maybe it could have changed. Swiffer Wetjet here. Agree with Ricky on Rey and the Praetorian Guards. Going back to the Snoke still makes him mad. Waste of potential for a top tier villain. Yeah, I think a lot of people were upset about that. The Major Jedi agrees Snoke could have been a big part of the trilogy. And we have Dom the Bomb. Welcome. What's up, dude?
What's up?
What
All
up?
right, so it is time for the main event.
Ding, ding.
We are moving forward to Luke Skywalker. So easily the most hotly contested topic in The Last Jedi. So chat, we'll be featuring y'all's comments a lot in this section because I think a lot of people have a lot to say. So go ahead and start filling it up. We will react to those. As a staunch defender of The Last Jedi, I believe that I will be able to make everyone think that Luke Skywalker was amazing in this film. I'll go ahead and throw that out there. So, Patrick, you just went. So, Tony, let's hear what you have to say. I know you said you have a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah.
So, let's start here. And I'm going to respond to everybody here because I think Luke was amazing.
So that was Jake Skywalker. Even Mark Hamill himself said that. Like, it just, there's nothing Luke about him but the name and the voice. Now let the vines begin, right? So
Let the bodies hit the floor.
It's just, there's so many things, and I know Diamond Figs and Patrick are really gonna go in, but with Luke, it's like that's not what I pictured as Luke, right? After the Return of the Jedi, and then we get that, like, it just left a bad taste in my mouth. And to me, Luke was what we got in Mando season 2, the finale. That is how I pictured Luke being in the sequels. Maybe just old, but he was gonna be like that. And what we got was a broken version of that, and we have no idea why he was broken. He was broken off screen. Now, I mean, maybe there's a way where it makes sense why he got to that point, but we need to see that because last we saw him, Return of the Jedi, all black everything. He won. He was that dude. That's not what we got in there. And then since I watched a little bit today, the milk part just irked my soul. Like, in his beard too, because I have a beard, so I can relate. And seeing all the green milk in his beard killed me. But the one positive thing, though, that I got teary-eyed happy, and I forgot about this scene because I try to, like, take everything out of The Last Jedi out of my memory. But the scene where he goes into the Falcon, he sneaks in, and he's in the cockpit, and it lights up, hit the fields. Then he goes back and sits down. I forgot R2 was on there. And then R2 comes out, and they just start talking. Like, my eyes got watery. I'm not going to lie. And they were talking, and then he started to play the hologram. And you heard, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Yeah,
I started just tearing. That just made me so happy. But that made me happy because that felt like Luke. Like, that moment there was the only Luke moment. And I remember I liked the Yoda part. Just because seeing Yoda, I don't remember if I liked Luke in that part. But that was the one part of the movie where Luke was Luke when he was talking to R2.
Yeah. And
I'm going to keep mine short because I know these other two are going to be forever, which is fine and good. But, like, that was not Luke Skywalker. Padawan Pops, you will never change my mind ever, no matter what you say.
So let's catch up with the chat on this one because we are getting quite a bit more on here. So JT has a lot of EU knowledge. Like I said earlier, he reads a lot of the stuff. So just talking about how Luke is super powerful, and then he gets crushed by some rocks by a Padawan. So JT's not a fan of Episode 8 Luke. Luke was supposed to be the epitome of hope, nothing less.
Yep.
Pop Ricky says they did my boy Luke wrong. That's not the Luke we saw in Return of the Jedi.
It's a clone.
And then cannot fundamentally deconstruct the ideals of a character who means so much to many. So
correct.
Damn it, Ryan.
So this is a lot of people get kind of mad about this one, I would say. So one thing I do like is you don't really see who a hero is until they face adversity and then overcome adversity. So I would say in the original trilogy, we do see Luke face a lot of adversity in each film. So Ben dies, Luke blows up the Death Star, then he gets his hand cut off, he redeems his father. Like we see him facing adversity, but I don't know if there's a greater adversity. I'd say that the Darth Vader thing probably is greater, but right below that, I would say seeing, all you've built up, all you've hoped for, and restoring the Jedi, and all you've done to the light, and then seeing that really unravel at your own hands, right? So we brought it up earlier, like he goes in the hut to kill Ben Solo. We see two different points of view of how it happened with him reading his mind. We see Kylo Ren's point of view. But regardless, Luke caused his own downfall. Very similar to how Anakin caused his own downfall. So it's a large thing for him to overcome, and we really for decades see him to succumb to that. So he thinks the best method is he caused this issue, so I'm just going to make myself, out of this. I kind of put the whole galaxy in turmoil, so I'm going to remove myself from the picture. Now, are there other ways to do that? Sure, but I do see where they were going with him being away. Also, George Lucas's original Episode 7 script had him as a hermit. So it's not a full-blown pulling him off, but they kind of kept true to that. So that is my partial defense. Diamond Figs, you have the floor.
Can I take a hit at two of those?
You can take a hit at all of them.
Away.
That's what a debate's for.
Babe Ruth, let's go.
What you said is, I think that the truest hint or facts or clues into who a hero is how they face adversity. Luke Skywalker, who is the hero, faces adversity and leaves. So by that reasoning, Luke Skywalker is not a hero for how long? For how many years Luke Skywalker is not a hero, which is absurd because when you're thinking of, he even says it too to Rey on Octo and by that, by like the pool, he's like, Luke Skywalker and I became a legend. Yeah, but him knowing his own appearance throughout the galaxy has nothing to do with how he views himself. Rey says it to him while they're sitting on the pool. She says, you the one who saw Vader and sensed the conflict in him. You threw your lightsaber away and chose to go with him. That's a hero. Then the same guy who hears that and then goes, yeah, but I was the one, it was my fault. He's so off from years, especially because during that time, you're like, a lot of people say, I don't know what happened during that time between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. He was building his Jedi temple, blah, 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 blah. Do you think that he was teaching dozens of students, going on adventures, trying to find stuff within the ways of the Force? Now he knows the Force. He is a Jedi Knight. He becomes a Jedi Master. At that point, that's when he decides to back out of everything. After all of that work, everything he did through his adolescence to this point now in his elder age, that's when he decides to check out because of his nephew falling out. Now, at the exact same time, too, the most unheroic thing he does throughout this, and this is one of my biggest points, is he doesn't only close himself off to the Force, he closes himself off to his family, which is his number one thing throughout the original trilogy. George Lucas has said it, it's a story of family. So Luke Skywalker, who the entire time, Leia's my sister, found family within Han and Chewie and R2 and C-3PO and Leia, all of this stuff, And then Vader, even too. This guy has blown up planets and murdered people throughout the galaxy. He's the equivalent of Star Wars Hitler. To find the good in his heart, to then say, throw his lightsaber and say, I am a Jedi like my father before me. That same guy turned himself off from the Force due to something, a discrepancy within his own family to his own sister. And I just cannot understand that. Other people can go, but that's like talking about him like and facing adversity and then being like, oh, he's a hero. At the end, yeah, that's great for a Force ghost. He doesn't even kiss his own sister on the head before he knows he's going to die. The X-Wing is in the water. It's not like he doesn't have a way off of that planet. The Millennium Falcon leaves. The X-Wing is in the water. And if he's like, well, the X-Wing was drowned, Rey flies it in the next movie. So the X-Wing works.
That's a good point. And
so, it's absurd that the person who is most about family, which is literally why George Lucas wrote the character that way. Also, the thing about the hermit, Obi-Wan was a hermit. So if he was going to do the thing where it was going to be him as Obi-Wan as the hermit, the whole reason why Obi-Wan was the hermit was to protect Luke. Luke wasn't protecting anybody by being a hermit. He was catching fish and drinking boob milk from a weird space cow.
I will not defend the green milk. I don't even buy green milk at Galaxy's Edge.
Nope.
I'm not
Never
even
had it.
And so I specifically buy blue milk, even though I am a staunch Last Jedi defender. I will not buy the green milk. Angel here mentioned that he had a Luke comment from earlier, but the scene that made him tear up was Luke reuniting with Leia. And like you said, Will, I think
he wasn't even there.
He was. So yeah, it's a good scene, but I think you could be critical of that as well. A few more comments here. Let's see. Ricky, what do we got? Yep. Love Luke being the hero, saving everyone that needed to be saved. Yep. For sure. Patrick, what do you think about Luke in The Last Jedi? I know when I ask if you would be a Last Jedi defender, the Luke part was a deal breaker for you. So let's see what you think.
Okay. Now I am the OG fan that grew up as a 5-year-old kid standing in line at the Tri-State Mall to go see this in the Philadelphia area, to go see the original Star Wars. I was immediately captivated and drawn into it as soon as I saw the small ship with a giant ship slowly engrossing the screen. I didn't know what the heck I was about to watch, but I was hooked, like fished in, get the net, man. I was in. And from that point forward, I was like, Star Wars. Like, I remember having my first kindergarten, Halloween parade. I went as Darth Vader, but I didn't just have the old fashioned where it had the yellow and black graphic and the mask. Like, I got into it. I had my lightsaber made out of a flashlight with a plastic tubing put onto it.
That's
because
awesome.
They didn't make them then. They didn't make those then. That was something my parents made for me. Right. So I had that and I wore gloves. It was like hotter than Hades. And I've got like winter gloves on. Like, I was into it. Right. So from being a child, that every toy and play time with your friends was all about Star Wars. So in my mind, I have played a million different stories with action figures and everything else as a kid, and so to see your hero, Luke Skywalker, which you left in last, like we were saying, like in the last of the original trilogy, in Return of the Jedi, he was finally to the point of Jedi Master, and he was just awesome. I absolutely expected to see more of a Luke Skywalker we got in season 2 Mandalorian. That's what I expected. Now, I get an old curmudgeon who's disrespectful of the lightsaber, which how many times did we hear Obi-Wan saying, this is your life, you got to protect this, you can't lose. And he's just tossed him like, so that was really weird. And then to have to correct that in Rise of Skywalker, when she goes to throw it in the fire, he's like, hey, wait a second, yeah, you got to treat that more respect. Like, again, we're not even getting to that because that movie just is trying to fix what this movie did. So to take Luke, and here's the other thing. before that movie was released, I believe we knew Carrie Fisher had passed at that point.
Yeah, we did.
Right? So that stinks. But what's really stinky is from the marketing perspective alone. So not even looking at the story and our passion from it. I'm going to step out of that box and look as a marketing. How do you take the biggest hero in your franchise? And I know you're trying to pass the torch, but you just killed off one of the scoundrel kind of good guy, Han Solo, in the other one. You obviously they didn't know they're going to lose Carrie Fisher, but just to get you to the third movie, to sell box office tickets, you need to get Luke into the third movie. So I thought it was just awful how they made him a curmudgeon. I agreed with everything Diamond Figs and everyone said, like very family oriented, and he's stuck on there drinking green milk and fish and not leaving. He's got the X-wing in the ocean. It was awful. That was just awful. And I felt like Luke trying to train. Like at first, I can kind of see him being the banter, kind of like Yoda annoyed him when he first met him. But like I think at this point, he kind of knows the seriousness and really needs the teacher because there's not many left. Like Yoda's gone, this is gone, and it was just sad to see Luke finally get introduced into the sequel trilogy because all we got was that last 5 minutes in the first one. So, which I kind of felt that was going to be what would happen, and I'm worried that we're going to get that in Ahsoka for Ezra, which I hope not. But I get bothered they killed him off in that fashion because I really would have liked to see him go off in the end. The scene where he kind of turned into nothing in his clothes, that I thought was beautifully done. But that should have been in the third movie. Get me to the third movie. Tell me a story. Get me there. The Force projection, we haven't seen that in anything, but all of a sudden now that's a thing. Like the Force Ghost, once you cross, yes. So that I didn't quite get. That I had a hard sell. I'll go for it. He's got super force power, I guess. But no one else ever had used that. I didn't see that ever used in Clone Wars or any of the prequels. Like, so to me, that was a hard sell on that even. So I just felt to take Luke Skywalker, who is your biggest hero of the franchise. Every kid wanted to be Luke. And he did, to your point, very of that mythical farm boy to legacy warrior, right? Like he's a Jedi Knight, he's a Jedi Master. So to go from the innocent farm boy to that and being caught up in this war and it just didn't make sense that all of a sudden now he's an old curmudgeon and he just let a new after destroying the Empire, he just let the new Empire come back and let the Resistance handle it. Let my sister stand on it. Like it didn't made no sense. So when you see the interviews with Mark Hamill talking about how he was kind of bothered or that's something Luke wouldn't do. Like I've told stories about my character for years and all that. So when you see his reactions, I'm 100% on board with the guy that's portrayed him in his head, right? Because we all saw what he portrayed on screen, but in his head, in our head, we all think the same things. Oh, Luke was a Jedi Master. He was awesome. He would help the Resistance at any cost. He would never let another Empire-like power rise. And so it just fell apart. And I think that's what caused the Star Wars fans to have a serious divide. The story in itself, there's parts of the story in this movie that are great, absolutely great. Like we said, Snoke, Andy Serkis' performance, the lightsaber scene is great. All these things are cool, but they don't work. Like, could we have seen Rey get some training a little bit more, Luke, to get to that point? Absolutely should have. So there's so much more that I felt was lacking. I don't know. And we saw what happened with Luke when he went against the baddie, right? Because if we're kind of paralleling the original trilogy, she should have really lost bad in this one. Not win. She should have lost. Something should have been. There should have been some sacrifice to the good side, besides just kind of getting annihilated almost. I mean, it was just sad seeing again. The whole story took place in a span of a day, a few hours, because that spaceship was running out of gas.
That's another story topic
What?
that I considered adding was the pacing of this movie, but we'll move. Looks
Everything
like
else is moving quick, but that ship is just
Yeah.
slowly. Like to me, like we got the races at the cannibal, all these things are going, but the ship is just slowly like come
Yeah.
on. No way.
Dana, welcome to the chat, by the way. Want to make sure
What
we
up,
get you in there.
Dana?
Welcome
Hey,
to the
Dana.
party. And then
Welcome.
somehow I missed this one too. Pro Mike Connor, Star Wars Rebels GOAT. We agree there. I think Tony's mentioned it. Andrea, you need to watch Star Wars Rebels and finish that
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
one.
Lex,
So-
what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say. Lex, what do you think about Luke Skywalker here before I make another defense and open it? We got about 6 minutes left, so you can take up as much of the time as you would like.
I don't think I need that much time, but I know that Patrick mentioned that he grew up on the movies, and not in any type of way, I didn't. However, I have come to love Luke Skywalker. Rewatching the movies, seeing him in Mandalorian the season 2, I've come to love him almost just as much as his father, because Anakin Skywalker is my favorite. However, seeing him in this movie absolutely crippled my vision of him. He just looked weak, defeated. He wasn't, as Will mentioned, he wasn't or Diamond Figs, be specific. He wasn't the hero that, we had him made out to be. And the vision that, up until this point, Star Wars has made him. And it was really kind of just tough to see. I think there were some touching scenes. I hate the milk scene, but that's already been touched on, so we won't go further there. But I just think that it just wasn't our typical Luke, and I think it really kind of was distraught what was done with his character. I know that you really like him, Will, but just what I had come to learn from him and to rewatch the movies and to see his progression to then go to this real time, today, it just was mind-boggling, to be honest. That's all I've got to say about it.
I do want to make a plug for this because I also would like to see it. But if JT could go live and interview Diamond Figs Will on his thoughts on the entire Luke disservice, I would be very interested in watching this because Diamond Figs knows his stuff as
Let's
far
go.
as far
I
as
have
Star
5
Wars
pages
goes.
of notes that at the end, if you would like, I'm just gonna rattle them off one by
Yeah,
one.
it sounds
Like,
good.
There's so much stuff. That,
So-
like, every time you guys bring up a point, I'm like, and that doesn't. So I'm just there's
No,
so much
we'll
stuff.
save you for the main event on that because I'm sure you can run through those. Dana here has a hot take on the Leia Mary Poppins scene. If you rewatch the stream, we probably go 15 minutes on that one, but yeah, definitely harder to make sense. And then Rey and Kylo both feeling Leia's presence going away would have added I agree with that. That would have been a pretty if they had
Would have
taken
loved
if they had
see
taken that route. Yeah, that's a really good idea. I like that.
Mm.
So, one thing I did like about Luke Skywalker in this movie, and I will say it's more so in the book, not the movie, but I have it marked here. When he dies, they don't devote as much to it in the book as I would have thought. But once he's done, he wakes up and he's like back on Octo and he hears the wind and everything. And then it says he heard a familiar voice. Maybe it was real. Perhaps it was just in his memory. Let go, Luke. He did, and his body faded away, leaving the ledge empty where the spot it had been. The forest rippled and shivered, but a moment later, this disturbance was lost amid countless other currents of the autumn evening on the island. The force continued as it always had, luminous and vast and eternal. I think had they taken that route at the end of this movie, use your imagination. I like to think it's Anakin saying, hey,
a lot
let
of
go.
people do.
And had you even you want to talk about lipsticking this movie. If you put Hayden Christensen's Force Ghost behind Luke telling him to let go there, you don't want to overshadow the big moment, but if Mark Hamill goes with this whole movie, he's not going to say no to that. I mean, how cool of a scene would that be where you've got father and son on screen at the same time?
Oh my God.
In the
He's
same
already
place.
seen Force Ghost Yoda too.
Yeah, so I think when I read it through this lens, I will say I genuinely I'm okay with The Last Jedi. It's not my favorite movie, but I don't hate it. I really don't like The Rise of Skywalker. But after reading the book, that's when I came to that conclusion that like having this extra head knowledge going into the movie, it makes certain aspects more enjoyable for me. So while I am joking some with being a staunch Last Jedi defender, having read the book, I do enjoy it more so than I did maybe the first 100 times I watched it, whatever. So I think that scene could have been very, very well received on screen, but it made its way to a book for, thousands of people to read it instead of millions to actually see it. So I think that's a disservice. But for the main event here, Diamond Figs, you have pages of what you don't like about Luke.
Chronologically through this movie because I have
so run through it, and then we will give a plug for everybody's channel, and that will be it.
Quick.
No, you're good.
Why is he in ceremonial robes at the beginning of the movie and then just immediately change? Was it laundry day? There's no reason for him to do it. If he doesn't believe in the Jedi Order, why is he wearing his ceremonial Jedi robes? Number two, the throwaway. I already did that. Where was it? Oh, to go back about the green milk. Mark Hamill said in an interview that one of the things that he was most mad about the green milk thing was the deleted scene where he's at least mourning over Han. He did not get to work with Harrison Ford again. He did not get to be on screen with Han Solo again. They had the time to leave in the scene where he milks whatever that species is on the side of the thing and have all of that milk drip down his beard like a fool, but they didn't have the time to leave in the deleted scene where he is mourning over his best friend and two of the, at least some sort of mourning other than where's Han? And then it's never brought up again.
And then it cuts to Kylo.
Yeah.
And it cuts to Kylo Ren, which
100%
whatever.
Right, Will.
I don't disagree.
Also, if Luke was supposed to be the wise Yoda type or Obi-Wan type master, I kind of alluded to this earlier. Why, when Rey shows up, is he not ready to train her to save the thing that he is trying to defeat? Because he's trying him removing himself from the Force was him trying to defeat the First Order and all of the evil that comes with him being a Jedi, correct? So why wouldn't he train them the same way that Yoda and Obi-Wan did? After Order 66, they both left. Yoda went into hiding on Dagobah. He was so sad and distraught over him losing his own Jedi Order because Yoda was basically like the overall president, if you want to use that term for the Jedi Order. He left because he knew he had failed. However, when Luke Skywalker showed up on Dagobah, he was screwing around a little bit and he hit Yoda with the stick, and it's all very charming for Yoda to do that. But when it came down to it, he was ready to train Luke because he knew that was the way to go. Luke, instead, Rey picks up the lightsaber to scare him, and Luke falls over, and the only time he uses the Force is to catch himself while he is in fear.
Oh my God.
That small moment where Luke closes himself off from the Force because he is afraid of the Force, while he is afraid, he uses it, which doesn't make any sense.
Good point.
Also, this is outside of Luke Skywalker. The only time that Chewbacca is in the movie is with porg jokes. So that pisses me off the entire time. He sees Luke. He doesn't even give Luke Skywalker a hug. If you want to talk about The Force Awakens when Han dies, Leia runs over to Rey and gives her a hug before she hugs Chewbacca, which does not make any sense because that's basically her brother-in-law. Okay, moving on from that. Luke closing himself off from the Force doesn't make any sense because him sensing the Force through Kylo Ren, what if that was to happen with anybody else? Literally what if Kylo Ren had 3 kids? How old is Kylo Ren during this time? I don't know, 19? In Star Wars lore, he could have a couple kids. What if he is building up the bloodline of Skywalker lineage that is evil, that is Sith, that is the dark side, while Luke is just on some planet to die? So the thing that he does to close himself off from the Force, he can't sense his sister, he can't sense his nephew, he can't sense his bloodline. So it doesn't make any sense why he does that. Rey's saber training, he does not train her with a lightsaber at all. The closest he gets to training her with a lightsaber is when she is attacking him, asking if he was going to murder Kylo Ren. That's the only time you see Luke do any sort of lightsaber training, is him slicing at her. And when he force grabs, that's another time he uses the Force for some reason there. He force grabs the pipe and is using that to fight against her. And Luke, master swordsman at this point, falls over in fear because she goes like this and flinches him out like she's going to give him the 1-2 punch. It doesn't make any sense there. Also, Rey having to explain to Luke who Luke Skywalker is doesn't make any sense to me either. She has to explain to him, "Oh, you were the one who threw away your lightsaber." And I know I alluded to this earlier, but there's an interview with Sam Witwer where he explains this. If you're going to leave one of the most beloved characters and not have him on screen for what 30 years, and then bring him back and fundamentally change him off screen, you are opening yourself up to a lot of hate, and it's completely valid. And he says something that I agree with too. He says he knows people who needed to see that version of Luke Skywalker, somebody who went from this high to a low, but there is no reason why his low shouldn't have been something more of a Yoda or an Obi-Wan low. We even saw a better low and I'm going to say this, for the Kenobi series, where Obi-Wan Kenobi is at his lowest. We saw a better low of him having failure and him not. He didn't close himself off from the Force. He was trying to talk to Qui-Gon. He was continuously out in the Force the entire time. Luke Skywalker closes himself off. So that doesn't make any sense to me either. Luke, who felt the ultimate darkness in his father, felt a little bit less from that of Kylo Ren just not knowing his own path and decided he was going to kill him. Luke went from fighting his own father, slicing at him, and then seeing the hand, realizing, oh, his hand is the same as my hand, in that same mirrored scene from in Return of the Jedi, and then he throws away his lightsaber. Instead, Luke ignites his lightsaber. That is the number one defining factor between the difference between this Luke Skywalker and Return of the Jedi Luke Skywalker. Rather than throwing it away and not choosing violent, he literally ignites it to kill his nephew, which I can't understand who the person who throws away his lightsaber initially is the same guy who wants to kill not only his nephew, but the son of his best friend and his sister.
Yeah.
And also, the last thing I'm going to say is just Luke being so afraid throughout all of this. Is like when Rey brings up the lightsaber, he has so much fear in him that if the fear was actually there, stuff like he just doesn't line up throughout the entire movie. Like, yeah, he's not Luke Skywalker, whatever. If it was written correctly, where he was actually the in fear Luke Skywalker, that's fine. If he wants to be a hermit, whatever, closed off. But there's points like him being afraid of the lightsaber, or him saying to Yoda, "I'm going to burn these Jedi texts and take the Jedi to the ground," and then them immediately burning, and him going, "Why'd you do that?" It doesn't make any sense. He's the one who wanted to do it. He sees it happens, and then he's sad that it happens.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. And then the final thing that makes me the most upset is, yeah, they were on set together because they had to film that scene between Mark and Carrie when he kisses her on the forehead and he gives her the dice and everything. Like, I was at the Millennium Falcon, all of that stuff. Obviously, they had no idea that Carrie Fisher was going to pass away, but at no point in the filming of probably one of the most anticipated films in history, right?
Yeah.
They didn't think that, one, killing off Harrison Ford and having them come back would be a good idea to just maybe for a couple of seconds have them all three on screen at the same time. Maybe even throw Chewbacca on there. He can hold a Porg for all I care if you really need to sell that many Porg toys, Disney. But that the three of them are never together throughout that entire series
Absolutely
makes no sense to me. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan is even reunited with Yoda and Anakin Skywalker. At no point are the three of them reunited, which does not make any sense.
And I agree with you, Will. They should have.
Story group thought that it would be a good idea to put them on screen at the same time. They love making money. They love that cash machine flowing. They love beating that dead horse till it stops spitting out money. But they didn't think having the original trilogy, the big three. When you say Luke, you usually say Han and Leia right after, right? And then occasionally
Luke, Han, and Leia,
and R2D2, right? Why not have all three of them on screen at the same time? You didn't have them act together, and all of them were pissed off that didn't happen, except for maybe Harrison Ford because he was just happy he died, right? Harrison Ford even says, I'm going on his here. Harrison Ford even says in his, when he got his Hollywood star, that at the point that he got his Hollywood star, it was like, what, a few years ago? He was like, Mark and I haven't worked together for a really long time. They weren't even on set for Rise of Skywalker, where they were both technically in that movie, and Han was like a weird force projection image dream.
Another issue.
Yeah.
Where he's on that thing. Like, yeah, I hate that. I hate that movie too. I cannot stand all three of them. The beginning of Force Awakens gets me very excited, and then it's just a slow downhill from there every time I watch those three movies. And also, the only other, the last thing I'm going to say is probably the best.
It's the third
thing
time
about,
you said that.
The final word.
The best thing about The Last Jedi, I think, the one line where Yoda says, "That's the trouble with being a master is, they are what they grow beyond." That is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
He says that to Luke, and Luke still does nothing. He doesn't get up to go help. Like I said, the X-Wing's still there. He doesn't get up to go help his sister in need. He tries a force projection, which he's not even there for, and then dies. So that's all I'm going to say about The Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker. That is legitimately the last. I'm done with it, but it makes me so sad that one of the best characters in the history of cinema was treated in such a way that verbally everyone hated it during press, and then they had to pay people off so that he could kind of be like, well, I didn't agree with it at first. I actually hated it. But, now I guess Rian Johnson did kind of make sense that everybody should be shocked instead of writing a story that everybody wanted to see. They did the wrong cameos. They did the wrong thing trying to recreate the original trilogy. They did it in such a skewed, disgusting way. That's it.
But see, I agree with you so much, Diamond Figs, on that point about, Luke kind of going to go kill his nephew, because let's face it, the whole basis of Star Wars is having hope. All the stories have hope. He was the beacon of hope.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. And that whole movie, A New Hope, is supposed to be because they found Luke Skywalker and he's ready to go on his journey. That's literally the first movie.
Yeah, doesn't give up on hope on Darth Vader. Like as you said, is like the Star Wars version of a Hitler, right? Like he doesn't give on hope on him to bring him back, and which he does, which is the best part of the story, like the redemption. But yet he's going to kill his nephew because he has no hope. He can't be straight. I 100% like that really bothered me, and I think a lot of fans are like, that is not Luke. It's a mimic. I don't know if he walked down in the woods, saw a staircase, and fell into some kind of mystical thing out there. I don't know, because that wasn't the Luke Skywalker that I expected, that I remembered, that I read expanded universe comics when I was younger, all that stuff. Like
30 years of books where Luke Skywalker deals with adversity and goes through it in such a way where he gets lowered and immediately comes back, and he's able to save himself and deal with that. Books upon books upon books. It's amazing how they had hundreds of different authors understand what had to happen with Luke Skywalker. But when it comes to the sequels, those people writing it were like, I don't know, maybe he's a dork.
Yeah.
I think all of those are hard points to argue against in the grand scheme of things. I do not disagree, but when life gives you lemons, sometimes you try to make lemonade. So that is what I just tried to do. So I thought this was a lot of fun. I wanted to highlight this comment from Swiffer Wetjet here. Should they reboot the sequels with the use of the World Between Worlds? We don't have time to go into that, but I do think with Ahsoka, I don't think you want to get into time travel, but I do think we are going to see maybe a cleanup job, not like completely undoing things, but the more things Disney does, they try to make the sequels make sense a little more, if you've noticed that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make a little more sense of things with this. Dana here says makes her angry that Ben didn't appear with Luke and Leia as a Force ghost. Yeah, that was probably a missed opportunity from 9, and I think we need to do one of these with episode 9 too, because I want to play the critic as well.
I mean, granted, he was never told how to do that, and that's kind of the main thing is like Qui-Gon taught Obi-Wan, and then Obi-Wan taught Vader, and Yoda taught Vader right before he was going to die, so that makes sense. But like, if every Jedi has the ability to speak when Rey is holding both lightsabers and she's able to hear them, there's no way they're not able to talk to Ben Solo, the lineage of Anakin Skywalker, right before he's about to die.
Yeah. Major Jedi, thank you for joining the stream. We appreciate it. And definitely, like they said, subscribe to all these other channels. We have
thank you
content going all the time as far as Star Wars goes. This was more of a long form, but man, that was a quick hour and 45 minutes talking about this. I thought, thought that was like, we could probably go for another hour and 45 and draw even more out. But definitely a great time. Let's hear before we go what everybody has going on next on their channel. So I'm just going to go in order for how it looks on my screen. Patrick, what have you got?
What have I got? Well, I'm actually I've got something on the set right now that I'm looking forward to, but I've got a few images, that videos will be dropping. I think you've seen I've been doing a series of Ahsoka images, getting kind of hyped for the Ahsoka series. So I think I might have one more to be dropping. I know I do because I got my 2-pack. So that image is going to be dropping. But like right now, I'm working on an image from Solo using a pop. So that'll be coming out soon. And I got watching Tony today doing another little toy hunt, and I went out to my local comic book shop and picked like I was showing Will earlier. I picked up a pop that isn't Star Wars, and the reason why is because I'm trying to create some of my own Star Wars Halloween pops. So I will be doing some future episodes where you get to see me hack and customize some of my pops to make something kind of cool. Because Funko will probably not do it. We're hoping to do the Day of the Dead ones. It'd be great to release for that, but who knows? But that's what I've got going on.
Awesome. And check out Patrick on Instagram too. It's Toy Photographer. In my opinion, Patrick takes the best Star Wars toy photos on Instagram. So definitely go take a look at Patrick's Instagram account. Give him a follow there as well. Tony, what do you got coming up? You've always got a lot coming up.
Yeah. So tomorrow at 12:10 in the afternoon, I'll be going live to unbox this brand new 1999 Topps Star Wars trading card tin. So we're gonna open it up live on stream, open up all the packs. I have no idea what these cards even look like or what's in this. I just bought this today. So
you're gonna open it?
Yeah, bruh. That's what I do for a living.
You're not just gonna put it in the case with Darth Maul, all the other Darth Maul stuff?
Once I empty it, yeah. But bro, it was $7 today. $7, brand new sealed from 99. So tomorrow live at noon, we're gonna open this bad boy up.
Diamond Figs, what do you got?
Just any Star Wars news that's constantly being pushed out. I mean, just always posting about stuff. If there's not like big Star Wars news, usually talking about old stuff. It's a lot of Ahsoka stuff right now, trying to get people hyped up for that.
Yes.
I know a lot of people are, but like there's so much to talk about when it comes to what Ahsoka is and her lore and everything that's going on with her, especially with everything going on with the writer's strike. I got a whole bunch of reels up on Instagram right now, stuff like Damon Lindelof was out striking against Disney after being fired from his Disney movie. Skeleton Crew is pushed back till who knows how long. If you don't have a Disney Plus subscription, you have to have one to be able to get the Ahsoka merch, stuff like that. So just Star Wars news and updates and lore videos. And then on Wednesdays, you can see me talking to Tony on Dark Side Secrets.
Yes.
Nice.
And if you didn't know, Diamond Figs, after watching this, has a wealth of Star Wars knowledge. So definitely tune into his channels as well.
There's nothing else going on up here, guys.
He brings the heat on it. Lex, what do you got going on?
Nothing out of the ordinary, just unboxings. I'm trying to read more of the comics, so hopefully I'll get some of those like comic summaries out. The only thing that I have coming up like within this week or so, I'm actually sponsoring my first event. So anyone in the South Florida area, I'll be hosting a trivia at Flynn's Arcade. Little plug. So if you guys want to come out, it'll be really fun. My knowledge is not nearly as extensive as Diamond Fig. Oh.
You mean Ahsoka?
Yeah, not nearly as extensive as his, but I'm hoping it'll be a good time. We'll do some giveaways, but I love all of you guys. You guys are great. So inspiring. Love all of your content.
Definitely go check out the Star Wars night down in South Florida that Lex is sponsoring. That looks so awesome. I wish I wasn't 4 hours away because I would be there for it.
Where in South Florida?
Margate.
No way. I'm in Naples.
Oh, nice.
So,
I'm not there, but I'm pretty close.
Yeah, that's not that. It's closer than Tony and Will are.
Yes.
Yep.
So definitely, if you're in town, go check that out. That sounds like a lot of fun with a lot of Star Wars fans. What I have going on this week, I post primarily on my Instagram. So if you check me out there, I'll put pictures of my collection up. I'm starting to work on some edits as well, finding Star Wars clips. And I posted about Mark Hamill this week, so his thoughts on Luke Skywalker. So check that out. And then on YouTube this week might not be as heavy, but next weekend, I'm going to Galaxy's Edge for my birthday. So I'm making a new lightsaber. So I've got a light side one. It's a High Republic. I think I'm going to make a Sith one next time. So I will have a video of making that lightsaber. Plus, I'll probably review it on the channel too. And I plan to have a lot of Galaxy's Edge content. So that's going to be
nice.
Awesome.
Going forward. So definitely check all these channels out. You're going to find, if there's anything Star Wars you want to find, you will find it amongst this group. So definitely give everyone a follow. Thanks again, everyone who joined us. I know that was a nice long discussion, but I think it was a great one. So definitely, thank you so much. And that will be it for us. May the Force be with you guys.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
Toodaloo.